Welcome to Level Up. I'm Sherelle.
And I'm Danny, and this is the podcast where we talk about health, fitness, and mindset. We are back for season 3 in the year 2024. I can't believe how quick it's come around, but happy new year, everyone. I hope you all got to have a break or, have some sort of celebration or even just some time to yourself. It's always a good year, just time of the year just to do what you want, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a little bit of a break over the holiday period, pull back a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, coming down to Melbourne, it's always a bit of a break, just seeing friends, family, just a more low-key vibe than Sydney altogether. So I find that naturally I just sort of chill out a bit more here, but never really completely stopping. I mean, I still love working when most people aren't, in a sense, just because things feel easier. There's less urgency. You have more mental clarity to do what you want to do. And when you genuinely love your routine and the anchors that you have in life, you don't want to let go of it all.
Totally.
I'd be lost without my routine. You know what I mean? What about you? Did you visit family and all of that?
Yeah, I went home for Christmas, and then I'm actually going home again for New Year's. It's my grandma's 85th, which is wild, ticking on. But yeah, it's been so nice just to pull back and have a little bit of time with friends and family. And I'm very similar to you. Love keeping things just ticking away in the background and working in silence when everyone else is having some time off. I find that sort of oddly therapeutic, to be honest, when there's no urgency. But yeah, it's a great time of the year to make sure that you can fill up your cup, recharge the batteries. I just love summer. Like, I'm obsessed with summer. So I can't wait to get some sunshine because I feel like I've been behind a computer for all of the year.
Literally, especially in Melbourne as well. Like the odds of having a sunny day but then the space to have time away from work is very slim. So if you can get some sun, just get out there.
Yeah, totally, definitely. What about you? What's plans for January?
Oh, well, essentially it is going to be January when this is recorded. So we're talking, again, just, still just working on little bits and pieces in the background, but then getting some sunshine, going to the beach. I'm back in Sydney. So, it's been pretty good up there. It had made the move a lot easier going to Sydney just because the weather does get really nice. And then you click and then it's Feb, March, April, but we won't go down that path because for today's episode, we're actually going to look backwards and reflect on some of our lessons from 2023. And, every day we have a new lesson, but we really just wanted to highlight some of the key lessons that we went through, really. So taking you on our journey of growth for 2023. And sharing some of our learnings. But, we talk about some of the lessons that really resonate with us. They're not easy to learn at the time. I feel like no good lesson comes easily. That's be a bit of pain or a bit of anxiety or a bit of hardship behind it to go, oh, okay, I'm going to learn from that.
Oh, I could not agree more, right? And when you're learning lessons and when things are happening, you're like, why? Why is this happening? What did I do wrong? And it's always in hindsight that you can look back and appreciate the lessons. And I love these conversations because I know how important they are to be able to reflect back on things that just didn't go to plan. And like you said, it's actually a little bit painful when you look back and be like, I learnt this, however, now I do this way. And you can actually pull something from that challenge or that hardship that you went through. And honestly, like, people that can own it and people that can zoom out and reflect on those things, they're the ones that make the most growth, right? Because it's so easy just to sit in your sorrows and feel sorry for yourself. But you guys aren't that sort of person, right? That's why you're listening to this podcast. It's always great in hindsight to do that, I must add. Doing it after the challenge is over and being able to reflect on the lesson, which is what we're going to do today, because both Danny and I have learned some, hard, challenging, but also so beneficial and rewarding things over the last year. So I'm excited to reflect on them.
Definitely, because, when you're in the midst of a stressful time, you hear people, everything's meant to be. And,
it's
that's
the
a
worst.
lesson.
It could be worse. It's like, don't gaslight me.
Could be worse is, look, it's true that it could be worse, but then you don't want to minimize from your problem.
No.
We're still allowed to be upset about things. We're still allowed to feel emotions. Like, it could be worse, but it's like, this thing's happening right now and I don't feel good about it. So I need to focus on this. But if you don't have that growth mindset you were talking about and taking the best out of a shit time, then life would be very miserable, because life's always trying to knock us down with challenges and then people that cross our paths, and it's not an easy road. And if it is an easy road, then you're probably not doing much. You know what I mean?
Yep. And every season and every stage of life has different challenges, like has different obstacles that you've got to learn. And I love this saying, but every lesson is repeated until it's learned. And I just firmly believe that, because I'm like, the amount of times you just get knocked in the face by the same obstacle, and it's like, I thought I dealt with this, but I clearly didn't. Like, I didn't go back, and I didn't do it properly. You know, I rushed through it, or I wanted the outcome rather than the process. And like, you have to learn lessons in a hard way. That's actually what makes them so valuable and memorable, right? We don't learn anything when things go well. We don't learn things when we're not faced with adversity. We really don't. We learn when we have to navigate through obstacles and challenges. That's the beauty of it. And not only that, which I know we'll get into, but one of the most valuable things from lessons is the skills that you learn from it, the obstacles and the challenges, and like the traits that you learn. And I know we've spoken about this with comp prep, which feels like an eternity ago, but the challenges we faced through prepping our bodies for a bodybuilding show are just invaluable for me now, like in business, in life, in being grateful, in work, in discipline, and all of those things. It's the lessons that you actually learn from a challenge that you voluntarily take on that allows you to grow stronger. So that's why it's so important, not only to stretch yourself, to fail, right? Because you won't make mistakes if you're not stretching yourself in some capacity. Like if you just stay in your lane and stick in your comfort zone, you probably won't learn many valuable lessons. But if you're really pushing the boundaries and trying to excel at certain things, you're going to fuck up. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Like, at least you're trying. I remember saying that to you a while ago. Remember, it's like, fuck, at least we're in the arena, you know, like putting ourselves out there. And I know we reference Brené Brown all the time, but like if people aren't in the arena getting their ass kicked along with you, like don't take advice from them, because they're just not stretching yourself, right? Like if you're making mistakes and falling over and coming into challenges and being like, damn it, you know, I really tried with that and I've let myself down, that's okay. It just means that you're trying. So this time of the year is a great opportunity to, you know, maybe reflect on some of the lessons that you're like, oh, you know, I still feel a bit disappointed, or whatever it might be. Like, feel sorry for yourself, but let's get rid of it now. Let's like find action points and mobilize that feeling so you don't feel paralyzed by it.
Totally. So get yourself in a clear headspace. And I love doing my reflecting and goal setting, you know, after all the Christmas and January craziness, like New Year craziness, because I find when you're setting goals and reflecting, the outcome can be heavily based on what you're feeling at that moment. And if you're a bit overwhelmed, if you're not feeling that confident about yourself, you're going to set goals from a place of lacking or fear-based goals. And that's not, it's not motivating, and it's not realistic of your full capacity. You know, when you're feeling yourself, you feel unstoppable. That's the state that you want to get in when you're setting goals. Obviously, you need to set realistic goals, but you're better off just getting yourself in a positive frame of mind, reflecting, taking on those lessons, not beating yourself up, and just really being able to move forward in a positive light. So I don't know about you, but I definitely wait until the end of year craziness is over. And then, you know, first, second week of Jan, then we get in that state and we look forward.
Yeah. Especially this time of the year as well. Like it's nuts business-wise in the fitness industry, isn't it? Like January is just a wild time. So it's a time to reflect, but it like for us, I feel like it's also a time to go. You know, like I like to take the whole month almost of January to really zoom out and reflect on my goals and give myself space, because I think what a lot of people do when it comes to goal setting and moving forward is they just do it in such a short-term frame. Like they just think, what do I want to achieve? Yep, this looks good. Write it down on a piece of paper, create a vision board, and off they go. They haven't even given themselves space to think about what they want to achieve. And we did this with our community, but what's important to you? Like, what are your values? You know, because a lot of people just set goals, they set outcomes, and they don't realize that they haven't even reflected on the things that are most important to them. Like maybe family is a really strong value for you. Maybe freedom is. Maybe travel is. Like what's a value for you? And does your goal actually align with that? Because often I find that as we grow, our values shift and change, but our goals or our benchmark just doesn't. And it should, right? Like our values and our goals should change together and do that at the same time. So making sure that you're giving yourself lots of space. And as I said, like January, I don't really set many too clear targets for myself. I just like to be able to give myself the space and the energy to figure out what I want to do for the year.
Yes, exactly. So let's get into it. How about that? What's your first lesson of 2023?
My first lesson that I've learned for 2023 is that most things aren't as good as they seem, and often the grass isn't greener. Now, I know a lot of people throw sayings and quotes out there, but until you live it and learn it, like, it doesn't exist. You know how you just hear all these beautiful quotes and sayings, and you're like, oh, that sounds nice. I'm just going to put that in an Instagram caption. But don't you think?
So
until
true.
you actually live it, I'm like, shit, now I know what that means. Like, until we experience it for ourselves, that's when you get to really embody that lesson. And for me, the grass isn't greener is something I've always said and known. But now that I feel like I'm in the depths of business and sort of at that stage of life as well, like, it's so easy to get lost in what everyone else is doing and everyone else's journey and where everyone else is and where you should be and what someone else is doing. Like, it's so easy to do that. But knowing and, you know, through some experiences and different things this year, just being able to see, like, everyone has their shit. Like, the grass often isn't greener. And again, like, we know that most people post their highlights, but what does that mean? Like, think about what actually happens behind the scenes then. You know, you don't see people struggling with IVF, or you don't see people like losing a loved one, or you don't see people going bankrupt, or you don't see people struggling to pay their grocery bills. Like, you don't actually see that stuff. And we just say, oh yeah, everyone posts their highlights. But what does that actually mean and feel? And I even feel that saying it, like, because I've just seen people that, like, I don't want to say I compared myself to, but I just saw people that I used to probably put up on a pedestal, or I used to think didn't have problems. They didn't have their own obstacles. And then when you actually see behind the scenes, or you have a conversation with them, or, you know, maybe they do share the odd thing, you're like, wow, you know, like, no one's immune to hardship. And it's so important to stay in your own lane and realize that the problems that you're going through, they are so universal. Like, as humans, we all have those things, and we're all just honestly out there just trying to make it.
Yep. Can I ask, when you would look at someone's life and say, wow, their life looks amazing, you know, the other green side, what's your green grass? Or what did it used to look like? You'd see someone and go, damn, like, they're killing it. What?
That's a good question. I think that's going to change, and it definitely has for me, based on what I saw as successful or desirable at certain times. And, you know, like, I think that's evolved for me, and I think it reflects on what you want your life to look like. And for me, like, something that's important for me is, like, values of mine is like freedom. You know, like, I don't want to be bound to anything. I want to be, like, have flexibility and freedom in what I'm doing and have choice. Choice and optionality are the two things that I'm like, I crave in life. I just love being able to choose what I do, when I do it, how I do it, and with whom. So for me, it's like based around values, but I even think back to, like, as young as high school and being like, oh, their family looks so perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and like, oh, they just look so happy, or they're so smart. You know, they don't have to try in school. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. I just think it's the theme of everything is always greener, like, looks greener.
Yeah.
And, you know, something I was thinking about is sometimes the grass is greener because it's fake on the other side. You know, where people are just posting the fakeness. And, like, you see it all the time now because people are more vulnerable and transparent online, but they're like, I had major depression through this period, and I was just smiling because that's what I had to do. You know, I just showed up and I had to post for business, and, you know, everyone's willing to share the hardship in hindsight. I just wish, and for myself, like, I definitely, you know, have my own reservations too, but it would be such a different world if we all shared challenges as we're in them, right? And even now we're reflecting on lessons in hindsight because it's easier to do it, and it's really hard to share a challenge when you're in the middle of it, when you're trying to navigate that challenge, because often you're just trying to survive, you know, that obstacle. Yeah. But everyone shares it in hindsight once they're through it and they're out the other side and everything's fine again. So it's just about realizing that people are going through shit, whether you realize it or not. And even when someone's smiling, there's something that's going on for them too. And often the people that show the most success, the most happiness, and don't share much, they're the ones that are usually struggling the most. So if you're brave enough, or if someone's brave enough and has the courage to actually share anything that might be slightly vulnerable, they're often the ones that are actually the richest, with support, family, self-esteem, courage, mindset. So yeah, it's just been that realization through like a few different examples. And as I said, maybe we know these things, but until we live them, we haven't really experienced it.
Yeah. What's that saying? Like, don't meet your idols or something like that?
Yeah.
Because, you know, people that even I used to put on a pedestal in our industry. Obviously, I'm not going to meet all my favorite celebrities in Hollywood.
The Rock, not even good.
You know, I'd love to meet him one day. But like, you know, just people in our industry or whoever or certain people that you've just met, you know, you meet them, you go, oh, wow, okay, like very different to on social media. They're not actually nice people, like, or something like that. And it just snaps you into reality, and very much so. But then it's also that line of, it is very hard to share when you're going through something, but then the online space is tricky. I'm all about sharing a hard time with a friend or a family member when it feels safe, but then like you get those people crying on their camera and then it gets a bit like,
like, did you set that up? I don't get it. I don't understand
I'm crying,
it.
that camera's nothing near my face. I don't want to even look in the mirror. Like, I
don't
want
fucking come near me.
You know, if I'm genuinely having to cry, I'm like, I could not imagine just flipping on the camera.
The old breakup ones where it's like, you know, they set the tripod up and they're going through breakup. And I don't know. Like, again, yes.
But they need love.
But is that actually real? Is that real? That's what I'm saying. Like,
but then how do you share a hard time? Like, what?
I think you can feel it. I can sense when someone's authentic versus, like you said, someone actually, I don't know, from the bed, they've got the camera set up in the corner, like journaling and crying. I'm like, you staged that. That to me is inauthentic though, right? Like, I don't know if that's not the trust building stuff that I'm talking about. Like, social media's changed and evolved so much, but I get stuck in a trap of scroll with like emotional things now where you can feel it through the screen, and I'm like, oh, am I getting old? I'm just like emotional now watching sad stories. Like, have you seen the reels where, I can't remember the creator's name, but they'll interview people on the street and like they'll interview older people, or they'll say like, what's your biggest regret, or you know, or homeless people. Like, that stuff kills me on the inside. That's authentic. Like, that's real. You can tell the difference between an influencer that's documenting or vlogging their breakup versus, sorry, but it's the truth, isn't it? Do you agree?
It is the truth.
Probably get scolded for this.
No, but it is the truth. So hats off to people who can actually do it. But that's the last thing
like, you can feel it, honestly. Like, I just think as humans, we have like an innate gut sense where it's like, if someone's like not trustworthy, you can feel it. I remember reading this in a book about communication, but when we say something, if it's scripted, right, our body language or our facial expression, will follow like a microsecond after we say it. But when we're not scripting, the opposite will happen. So we respond emotionally and visually. Our eyes and our mouth and our, you know, our lines and everything will respond visually first, a microsecond before we speak. So that's actually when we script. That's why you can tell when someone's scripting. Maybe it's in the tone of their voice, but it's also in their facial expression, unless they're really skilled at it. So being able to do this, right, it's an art, but it's also why we can sense from behind the screen when we watch something, whether it's real or whether they're being transparent or whether it's staged and scripted.
Yeah, is it because you have to like think about what you're saying? And then you react after you've... okay.
Which is so interesting, right? I didn't know that. I was like, I wonder why. You know, you can just tell. You can just tell, and that's why. It's because when people are scripting, they're speaking and then responding versus responding and then speaking. Yeah. It's very different.
You do notice it.
Totally. Some people it's horrible. And I'm like, oh, God, it's like...
cringe, man.
Yeah, some people it's horrible. And I think, like, don't get me wrong, I script a lot of my content if I want to get a clear message across. But I don't script like my life.
You're not scripting your emotions.
No.
And, like hardships.
Yes.
No. Yeah, okay. I agree. The grass is always greener. Mm-hmm. I stand by that saying.
Yeah. The grass isn't greener.
No, the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, but it's fake.
Oh, yeah. So I was just trying to agree with your point.
Often the grass
Whatever you
isn't
said,
greener.
I agree.
The grass isn't greener. Like, the grass is greener where we water it.
Oh, sorry.
That's the analogy.
Oh, because the normal saying is the grass is greener on the other side.
The normal saying close. The normal saying goes the grass, like, often people think the grass is greener on the other side. Sorry, yes. Like, people think that, but that's not the reality. Once you get over there, you realise it's fake or it's full of weeds, or they spray painted it. Whatever it is, there's every grass still has dog shit in it. Honestly, you sit on it, there's prickles everywhere.
Literally.
You know, I don't even want grass. You got to mow it all the time.
Got to mow it?
Oh, there's just, it's not good. But one thing I realised just on that, is when you think, and this is probably more specific to, I guess, business and work, but often you think that a better opportunity is better, or something different is better, or over here I wouldn't have this problem. But that's not the case. Like, the grass isn't greener because that opportunity or project or line of work, that thing over there has its own set of challenges and its own set of shit. And just because you've got something over here that you're dealing with, you're still going to have it over there. So don't get that, I guess, woman in the red dress analogy where it's better over there, because it's not. Like, it's not better. You've got challenges here and you can either fix them and get through that shitty stage, or you can go over there and face different challenges that are just as hard and have to go through the same stage.
Yes.
So don't get that like shiny object syndrome where you're just jumping between opportunities or challenges because you think the grass is greener, when matter of fact is you get over there and you realize it's not.
There's problems everywhere. You just have to learn how to handle them and what kind of problems you want. But you're going to have them in every phase of your life. Even if someone just handed you $1 million, you're going to have to pay tax on it. You won't know where to put it in which bank account. Like, you have all these problems. You know, what do I buy with it?
Well, that's why people that win Tats Lotto, they blow it and they go bankrupt. And it's just because they don't know how to save and earn money.
Exactly. Or they buy a fast car that they don't know anything about driving, then they crash it. Like, it happens all the time. So people get used to having problems. That is life, but it's how you handle them. Totally.
Cool. All right, you're up. That's my first
grass. Green grass. Yeah. So one of my lessons was just, the best way to learn is to bloody get out there and get your hands dirty, you know, do the work. For some reason, people just want to outsource everything, you know, they've just started in their career as a trainer and they're ready to outsource, or they're ready to expand and, you know, hire all these people. It's just a money pit, you know, and even I started trying to outsource things, and, you know, we're here in a beautiful podcast studio. That was a tick. We did good on this one, but there's so many other ones that I've made mistakes.
Totally.
You know, and it's like, oh dear, that was not a good idea. But that taught me to get back in there and get my hands dirty and learn new skills. You know, I've been making websites for people, you know, even people I'm not working with now. My brother is like, you just chuck together a little website for me. I'm like, okay. Cute. I've learned how to do it because I've realized that you still need a base level of knowledge on most of the things happening in your business, because other people can take you for a ride, you know. And why would you stop expanding your knowledge and skill set? I got bored as well. As I was trying to grow different avenues, you know, if someone else is growing it for you, it can be, it's not thrilling, it's not entertaining, you're not learning. So it is really important just to still get out there and get that experience. That's kind of from a business sense, but even as a coach, you know, there's this epidemic of not knowing enough, and I know it's because of social media.
Oh, totally.
Every person just puts out how smart they are, and I know this, and my client got this result, where they might have 100 clients, one did really well, but they're going to post that one client.
I hate that. It's like, you know? We saw that testimonial 3 years ago.
It's the same one.
Yeah,
it's the same testimonial, but, you know, and then people think, oh God, my clients don't look like that. I need to study more. I need to read another book.
I don't know enough.
I don't know enough. And then they're wasting all their time doing extra study.
Yeah.
Obviously a little bit's good, and we always want to learn and do all that, but too much study is a trap, because then it actually takes you away from your craft and your skill set. Like, there's no course on, or a great course on, how to have emotional intelligence with your client when they walk in. You know, let's just say you're a face-to-face trainer, your client comes in, there's no book that says, okay, smile, shake their hand, or, you know, open up your body language, let them through the door first. You know, it's not just about, this is the most optimal technique in the gym. It's like, no, they might have had a bad day and you have to comfort them. Or maybe, you know, you need to make the job entertaining and have a bit of a laugh. That's what makes you a good coach.
Totally.
All of these little nuances that you just learn through confidence, through practice, you know, not from behind a computer screen or a book. And I think a lot of people forget that. And even myself, I know this was meant to be our lesson for the year, but, you know, I have that to a degree still, but then I just feel for people that are stuck in that social media trap, not feeling good enough, not feeling smart enough, but they're a top person And I would prefer hiring someone that's personable, still good at their job, but you don't have to be a complete genius with no emotional intelligence. And it makes it a bit awkward. You're not going to open up to them and it's not fun.
Yep.
So just be you and, you know, realize that you don't always have to recite what's in a textbook to be a good coach or to be good at business. You just have to be a good person.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the episode, please share it with a friend or share it on your socials, and don't forget to tag us. As a coach, it's about like no one cares what you know unless they know that you care. Right?
Yes.
I've heard that. Honestly, we live in an epidemic of information. People don't want more information. People don't need more information. The value of information went out the door when Google came in. Right?
Exactly.
You just find everything. ChatGPT now. Like, why do I need anyone for anything? What people want is someone to dilute the information, condense it, and give them what they need. That's exactly what people want. They don't want all the bells and whistles.
Yes.
Please don't tell a new beginner client about a moment arm. Like, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, people just want what they need. They need the tiny next step. Even if they think they might need the end, right? A lot of people come in, they want this and they want that, and they want to learn about this, and that's amazing. But as a coach, it's actually knowing how to filter and like how to give people what they need. And this is for everything, not even just coaching, but like working with staff, working with people, relationships, like tiny next steps of what people actually need. It's definitely been something that I've learned because I felt like I was probably in that too, where it was like I never knew enough. There was always more to learn. But you sort of, I don't know, something happens where you realize that that's actually not what people need, not what people want, not why people are coming to you. And it's actually the other things like relatability, charisma, personality. It's all of those traits that, I don't know, people don't know how to build. It's easier to read a textbook than what it is to work on your communication skills. But at the end of the day, those are the things that separate you. Because I know a lot of really intelligent people that struggle to get clients.
Yes.
That really, really suffer in their relationships, that don't have a lot of friends, that aren't really that happy, you know, and it's got nothing to do with what they know. They're very intelligent, but yeah, I think people can get really stuck in that trap, and a lot of people take advantage of it too.
Totally.
You know, they just sell because they know those people out of that insecurity will pay a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's a big selling point to people. Do you feel like an imposter? Well, join my course.
If you don't feel like an imposter, you're probably not stretching yourself enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a good thing. I know a lot of people are like, oh, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I get it, right? But that's like, syndrome is such a scary word, right? Syndrome
True.
is a collection of symptoms. And I just don't even know if that's what like you guys have or if I have. Like, it's not a collection of symptoms. It's a side effect of stretching yourself to do something that you might not feel 100% ready for, right? And if you feel 100% ready, you're late to the party and you've probably missed the opportunity, right? So it's about stretching yourself. I had a question for you though, because your lesson around like not outsourcing too quick. I've learnt that too, where I'm like, ooh, took my finger out of the pie a little bit too soon. Now I've got to come back in and put my finger back in the pie.
Never heard the part 2 of that saying. Put your finger back in the pie.
Why did I just think of American Pie and that scene with the pie?
Yuck.
Let's not go there. Okay,
My
let's go.
germs. No, that's a scary movie. Anyway.
What helped you realize that maybe you needed to put your finger back in the pie? Like, was there anything that sort of you were like, oh, I just think maybe I was growing too quick, or I don't know, like what helped you learn that lesson?
As in like why outsourcing wasn't the right thing?
Yes.
Oh, it was more just thinking that I had to outsource because it didn't.
Thinking that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many elements, as I've mentioned, where it's been amazing. But then in the ones where I didn't have to, it's like, this is a part of me as well that loves control and loves working.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, I should just do it myself.
Yeah.
It'll be cheaper. I don't have to try and explain to the other person what I'm trying to do. I don't have to micromanage everything. And I'm wasting time and money.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy with the result. So it's like, okay, I tried it. Maybe I didn't hire the right person, or maybe I just outsourced when I actually still loved that job as well, because I've found this year, not that I've still been working with clients and doing all of that, but I love being creative and I love being a bit of a computer geek. Yep. There are just elements where I actually missed. I'm back face to face, which I thought that door was done. But there are just things that I missed and I just had to listen. Either the results were not good from the person that I hired, or I've made the mistake, or I just literally missed doing that task. I'd never I'd never do my bookkeeping again.
Yeah.
I'd never do my tax and all that and things like that. But it was more just like the creative tasks that I enjoyed. Well, maybe I didn't actually have to outsource that, but I sort of thought that I had to when I didn't.
So interesting. I mean, like, it's so true. Like, I feel like the same as you. There was only 2 reasons why I personally, now that I've learned that lesson, to outsource, and that the only 2 reasons why I'll keep something is enjoyment and results. Like, if I need to keep something because it's not quite ready, it's not like I wouldn't confidently be able to pass this over to someone and expect them to deliver the same outcome, then the same thing, like there's just certain things I like doing. Do you know what I mean? That I don't like. I think that's important. You can't just outsource your whole life. Like, don't get me wrong, I have a cleaner. Hate that.
Yeah,
I can clean the house.
Love the cleaner.
But if I liked cleaning, I'd clean.
Yes.
You know, the same with cooking. Like, you know, I actually like cooking. So, you know, I do that at periods of outsource it. But you got to keep the things that you actually like and the things that you want to get better at to get an outcome, like, close to you, and not feel like you've got to get rid of everything. Because so many people in this world of scaling and growing and outsourcing and being more efficient and leverage and everything that comes with that, there's also mistakes, and you can't rush to doing that. But I didn't know you were back in person. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, we've got our gym.
And why not?
Yeah, because I thought because I refer so many leads. If anyone was in Sydney, I'd give them all to our staff who I love, and they're really good. So I thought, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, as the year was wrapping up, I found myself with more free time, and I'm like, damn, I do miss it.
Yeah.
I miss the thrill of having a new client or just those emotions. And again, all of those things that you don't get from studying it in a course.
Yes.
You know, I feel like I blended these 2 lessons together, but you know, you're not going to get those personal emotions from a course and all of that. So yeah, just really missed those feelings.
Yeah.
And then as kind of like a side point on courses, like, don't hide behind courses. Just get out there and do the thing. And to be honest, because I'm sure you get asked this as well, what is the best course for X, Y, Z?
All the time.
Obviously, the courses that you and I run and the educationals that we run, they're the best.
Yeah.
But like, if someone goes, what's the best, like, business course?
Yeah.
And I know, you know, business coaching. I was waiting for a reaction. There's no good business course because, you know, a lot of those people don't have a successful business. They just know how to get on there and get AI to help them make a course. But everyone's business is so unique.
Yeah.
So you can have underlying principles, but to really grow your business, I feel like you need so many different mentors and advice from specialists who actually have success in that area rather than buying a 12-week course, setting your goals, you know, and all those I don't even know what happens in those courses, but just get out there and do the work. In summary, get out there and do the work and just find actual mentors rather than just spending all your years studying. It will not get you further.
I've actually changed my mind on that.
No, that's why you didn't react.
A little bit.
Damn, I baited
passively.
you.
No, look, I definitely still feel like, again, we are in that such a, I don't even know, like an epidemic of business coaches that don't even have successful businesses behind them as a showroom to say this is what you want, right?
Yeah.
They're smart. They're just scaling a freaking online course on Thinkific, you know, and that's okay. So that's okay. But, and it's all relative to what you want. But like, over the last, I want to say 4 to 6 months, like, we have had business mentors come in and help us.
But mentors or a
different
course?
So different. Oh,
that's
yeah, not
what I mean.
course.
Mentors versus courses.
Yeah. But the difference that I now know that I can reflect on is the difference between doing something like that versus going through some sort of course. Like, we waited until we were stuck.
Yeah.
Most people, there's a big long list on their iPhone notes of shit they need to do before they pay for someone's help.
Yeah.
So much, right? We exhausted that, right? So it's about doing all the things that you know you should be doing to fix the problems that you've got. And then what we did is we sort of outsourced people to help with specific areas to make the product better.
Nice.
It wasn't about scaling. It was about making the product better. Like, oh, I'm just running into this, and when we do this, this happens, you know. So it's for like specific reasons, like you said, because this person that does this would be horrible at that.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, do you want some advice at this section? I'm like, nope.
Not
like,
from you.
You're great at this. Do you know what I mean? So, and you know, you've got to be in a position. You've got to do the time, and you've got to have tried things to get to that. Whereas I just feel like so many people, again, they're looking for the quick fix. They're looking for the answer with everything, and often they're surprised when it's not there. It's like, oh, I just thought, you know, I'd do this 12-week scale my company course and I'd make $1 million. And it's like, that is not how it works, right?
No.
And you took the bait. That's all you did. So yeah, you've got, I haven't made that mistake because I've just looked around and seen so many other people make it for me.
Exactly.
And been like, oh, like just be like freaking really good at what you do and just obsess over results and obsess over like culture and doing it the right way and obsess over your own personal development, like obsess over those things and the outcome will come because you'll build the skills that will be required to do those things.
Yeah, agreed. That's it for my one.
That was a good one. Great one.
Thanks.
Oh, that leads perfectly into my other lesson, which I think we might have reflected on previously, but a lesson I have learnt over 2023. And honestly, all years up until this one, I had been learning this lesson, but last year was the time that I put it into place, was that you can only deeply commit to a few things. Like you can only deeply commit to a few things at one time. And it's so hard when you're a founder, when you're passionate, when you've got lots of interests, when you've got lots of opportunity, I think as well, because the more successful that you become, the more opportunities that come your way as well. And it then shifts to not a game of saying yes, but a game of saying no and how much you can say no to and how much you can decline. Oh, it's so hard. But that is something I've learned for 2023 is like that you can physically only commit your time, your energy, your money, your focus to a couple of different things. Less is more. Like if you can actually put that to one, you'll arguably be more successful at that one thing than even two or three. So for me, it's like this year's been so hard to say no to a lot of things and like things that I want to do, like saying no to good for the longer term vision of great is really challenging. And yeah, I've just learnt that this year. It's just been such a pivotal realization for me of when I've said no and at the time it's felt hard and yucky and like the wrong decision. And I've got those parts that are like, oh, you're being lazy, you should do it. Like, you know, take it on, do more, blah, 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 hustle. Like you've got those parts because there's parts of me that feels like I'm taking the easier route by not taking on more. But then it's like, actually, no, it just means you can 10x the time, energy and focus because you don't have unlimited resources of those. That's the only resource you can't replenish all of the time. It's why a lot of the greats obsess over productivity and health in general and well-being because they know that you can't just create more of it. Putting that back into just a couple of things and just being disciplined to saying no and like, I know it goes against what we're saying about delegating, but delegating when it's good enough rather than perfect so that I can focus on the things that do need a lot of attention. That's just been such a big realization for me.
What are some of the things that you had to say no to? Well, not in specifics, but, you know.
Yeah.
Or it can be if you want.
No. So for example, like at the moment we have like obviously the coaching business and we also have the app going at the same time. They are two separate products, two separate parts of the business. And it's been really hard to shift and focus between the two. But in all honesty, I've let go of everything else besides those two things.
Cool.
So like no other projects, like even Habitual Self, the journal that I launched, that's gone, got to go on the back burner for now. Like it's still passively there. But in terms of working on things, it's like, this is where my energy needs to be. Yeah. These two things. Same brand, same umbrella, but that's it. Do you know what I mean? I focus on those people over here and those people on here, making those two products the best as I can. There's also been parts of me where I know in the future my vision is to sort of merge it all under the sort of the same thing. But, you know, there's also parts of me that's like, oh, well, you know, make sure that you don't split it too much and you know, would it be better just focusing on one? You know, there's lots of parts of me that just realizes that the more you cut the weight, the more you can carry in one area. And yeah, I just think from what I've consumed in a lot of other different spaces, different people, that's always been a common theme. Like a lot of really successful, great people, they just don't have a lot of things. Exactly. They have one thing that got them there. And once they get to a certain point where it doesn't matter, they can just throw billions around. That's when they diversify.
Yes.
And I never really understood that because I think that often when you see people doing a lot of things, you think that they're successful. You get that. But it's not the case, is it, right? Like it's like if people have their finger in too many pies, no pie is good.
You love this
pie analogy.
You and your pies. We're going to get you a meat pie after. Or are you talking apple pie type, sweet dessert?
Blueberry. Like
blueberry.
Pie, yeah. Not
on a nice windowsill.
Pie. I'm Australian enough. If I have a meat pie, there's something wrong with me.
That could be the new cover photo. But I know what you mean. And you know, there's no such thing as balance across your life.
Yes, and on that though, like not only business, I've had to let go of other things. I've had to say no to social events, like no to things with people, like no to relationships that are, you know, that maybe don't serve me, like acquaintances and just things where I'd really stretch myself and be like, why am I doing this? You know, why am I
That's the
doing this?
worst.
I've
Yeah.
got a really good quote that sort of James Clear said recently in one of his newsletters that hit home. I might read it out if that's okay.
Read it out.
Be ruthless about what you ignore. Time, energy, and resources are so precious. You have to be ferocious about cutting your priorities more than you realize, and certainly more than is comfortable. You can only deeply commit to a few things, 1 or 2, maybe 3. Every pretty good, sort of nice, kind of fun thing you abandon is like shedding a weighted vest that lets you move at top speed. You were so busy focusing on how much you could carry, you never realized you could run this fast.
Wow.
Wow, isn't that powerful? I get goosebumps.
Mic drop.
Love
That's
it.
great.
But yeah, that realization for me was like, this is what I need to do. You know, like this. Don't get blinkers. You know, everyone else's pies. Don't worry about them. Just like really, like you'll be so surprised at how much you can achieve if you just focus on a couple of great things and make them even better.
Yeah. I feel like you have to earn that right though, because I know at the start of business, and I still found myself, you know, in 2023 wearing so many hats and putting more hats even on. But then I want 24 to be taking off some of those hats. Yep. I need to give my neck a break. It gets heavy wearing all the hats because I 100% did, like, obviously everything I'm doing is in the fitness industry. So it's not like we're branching out to random businesses that haven't got to do with our current, you know, skill set and profile and all of that. But even doing, you mentioned 2 separate things, even, you know, 2+ things, it takes your energy and your effort. So yeah, you do have to earn that right though, I feel, to be able to start getting rid of jobs. But you definitely don't want to be juggling everything forever because there's only so much growth you will have. And scaling is not always the next step. You know, and I heard someone say scaling is a responsibility. You have to want to scale and it has to benefit you. It's like we always get asked, are you going to make another Paddo? Like bring Paddo to Melbourne or, you know, wherever. And it's like, hell no, that will definitely dilute the brand. And I know for a fact that we wouldn't be able to replicate the exact same gym, community, vibe, equipment than what we have. So it's like, no, I'm actually happy keeping that as is and just creating a really awesome culture there. Things like that. So yeah, I feel like it's a mix of being ready to shed the jobs and letting go of a bit of control. That's my lens anyway. Like,
Totally.
okay.
I completely agree. Like it is something like at the start, you just honestly throwing shit everywhere. You're just trying to figure it out. Let's be real. I'm not just focusing on one thing. Otherwise you just wouldn't gain the skills. But once you do become a bit of a generalist and you sort of get that sense and you see an opportunity that's great, that you know that if you gave it the love and attention it deserves and needs to flourish, like you go ham at that.
Yes.
Because not sometimes, those other things are just distractions, right? Like it's the shiny object. It's like, oh, I could do a little bit over here, but you don't really know what you're letting go of, right? And like, let's use relationships. It's like we've all had that one guy, right? Where you're like, oh, shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah.
But like the relationship that is going to take you to the end of life, right? That's the thing that you need to commit to, even if it's not thrilling and exciting as that bad boy that you saw when you were 19, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing in everything. There's always going to be distractions out there that look good. But again, the grass isn't greener. You know, you might go over there and realize it's not what you want. So then what do you have left? You know, maybe you've let go of something great that needed that time and energy, and opportunities don't wait. You know, like I'm very mindful of the stage of life that I'm in and like the years that are going to come and what I need to do to make sure that, you know, those years are comfortable for me. I'm not stressed, I'm not worried, and I'm not scattered and time poor. I'm working 60-hour weeks and doing those things. You know, there's time pressures for certain things as well. And I think that's healthy to acknowledge. Like we can't just fumble through life and expect everything to work out. Like life doesn't go forever, you know, life's short.
It is. And then if you do let go of something, you don't always have to fill it with something else. It's like get okay with having that clear space in your calendar because that's when you're the most creative. That's when new ideas come to you, or you might, you know, walk down the street and meet someone and, you know, the opportunities come from clarity and clear space and a clear mind as well. So get okay with letting go of some of it, but then keeping it blank. It'll fill up organically and naturally with whatever is needed for your next phase of life. People often think, oh, I need to be busy all the time. But it's like, no, just let it be and then the rest will take care of itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's mine. Your next one?
Oh, and I did touch on this in our last one for season 2, but communication, and that's massive. I mean, people are professional storytellers. We make up in our mind, oh, that person's angry at me, or maybe I didn't do a good job, or, you know, like, but that just comes from a lack of communication and people not being clear. So I just find that a lot of people are overthinkers and overanalyzers, and we might not even realize that we might just say something in passing, but that person might be up all night creating a whole story. And communicating hardship requires us to be vulnerable. It can be so hard having a challenging conversation, but guaranteed, the longer you put off that challenging conversation, it's going to be way harder as time goes on and as stories in our head grow and as resentment grows as well. And then that conversation is going to be just way worse than if you just acknowledge it before it snowballs. That's for hard times anyway. So that's more of a personal relationship and, you know, just general communication. Like, if something's not sitting right with you and you want to repair that relationship, you just have to bring it up in a place from calmness. Don't bring it up, you know, and it's easier said than done. Here I am, you know, if Paul listened to this, he'd be like, bullshit, you don't apply any of this with me. You yell at me, you know what I mean?
But you know you're doing it. You're like, I'm being irrational and that's okay. And I'm yelling at you.
Exactly. You know, you got to let it die down and bring it up in a way that can be received well from the other person.
It's so true. Luke and I had an argument yesterday.
Fresh.
Yeah,
I couldn't feel it at breakfast this morning.
Now we've processed it. Fuck him and his self-awareness. But I said to him last time, if we ever get into a heated argument, if I get angry, it takes me a lot to get angry.
Okay.
Right? Like a lot. I'm not an aggressive person. Like I probably seem aggressive at times to some people. But anger is not an emotion that's like something that I show. Like I'll show 50 other emotions before I get angry. If something really frustrates me and pisses me off and I show anger, I need hours just to diffuse. Like I need space. And I was like, next, if you ever see this from me, do this. Like I need like 6 hours of space. Let me go to the gym. Let me do my thing. Don't try and counsel me. Like I'll blow a lid, right? And honestly, it's like we need to normalize this. I'd never do this at work. I'd never do this in front of you. I'd never do this in anyone else. But relationships, we respond differently, right? When our partners, our family, our close friends, they see parts of us that just don't get airtime anywhere else, you know? And
totally.
That's so okay. Like you said, Paul pisses you off, you go and tell him, right? Like your staff member pisses you off, you're probably not. So it's about knowing how to filter that too. And also, like you said, hard conversations. We're often just one hard conversation away from getting exactly what we want.
Yes.
So like last time something happened, I was like communicated, next time this happens, if you ever see this from me, please do this and respect that boundary. And we spoke about this in boundaries, right? Like it's about naming those boundaries. And so many people often don't. They just don't talk about it. Just leave it. And it's like, no. Like arguments are healthy. Like arguments is like important for growth, right? It's normal. It means you care essentially about something or maybe some need isn't being quite met. So being able to do that, obviously practicing it with relationships, doing it in the workplace, doing it in partnerships, it's so important because, you know, even we've had like stretchy conversations, but not a tough conversation, not hard. It's important for growth and for clarity to make sure that both parties are on the same page with certain things so that you can reset things like the rupture itself, right? And then restoring it and making sure that you communicate so that you can work together. Because if you can't communicate, your relationships won't work, right? And I think we're up to like a 60% divorce rate these days. Like it's so
going
important.
up, isn't it?
Literally, it's so important to have open communication, stretchy conversations and dialogues, and name your needs to your partners and the people around you. If you don't like something, like just voice it afterwards, after the argument's over. But yes, I completely agree.
Yeah, did it work, his strategy?
Yes, it did. Because I thought he's not talking to me. This is odd, you know.
But that's what you wanted.
But then we resolved it afterwards, you know. And I think that's normal, right? Like, it's not normal. It's not normal.
It's your normal. It's what you want in that moment. Good. But I respect people so much more after a good conversation about something that's a bit tricky and cringe.
Yes.
Like, you know, even when we have to talk, not that it's often, but if we talk about something that's a bit like, because sometimes I go in expecting the other person to get angry and upset, but when you're doing it with someone self-aware, it's bloody beautiful.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you know, I build so much trust with people when they have those conversations with me. If someone tells me, look, I really appreciate this, but I sort of wanted it this way, do you think we could meet in the middle, or something like that? Or even if someone shows me, like, I'm just really upset at this, if someone shows me those components and is willing to voice that to me rather than just ignore or just flight away or just fight back, like, if someone's actually willing to have an open conversation, like, man, I trust them because I know that when things get hard, they're going to tell me before they blow up or before it turns into a disaster. And I think we need to, like, reinforce, encourage, and, like, appreciate people that do that, but often they don't get met with that. They just get sort of shut down and said, like, oh, don't respond like that, don't do that, like, how dare you, you know? And it's sort of, you got to bite your own tongue even if you do get triggered. Yeah, and you have to create a safe environment for that person. I mean, some of the girls that work at our gym, like, sometimes when everyone's busy, you walk past, hey, how you going? They're like, good. But then if I actually spent time and, you know, would sit down with them, things come up. You go, oh my God, I didn't even know so-and-so was feeling that way. Next minute they're crying and it's like, So you but it's nice to know that there is a safe space, but then often we're so busy that we don't really allow that as well. And look, we can't have that deep and meaningful conversations with every single human we come across, but for the relationships that we want to keep going and improve, you have to spend time with that person and giving them space rather than just assuming how they feel. You know, allow them to feel safe and even think, oh, no, maybe I do need help with this. Because it's easy for us to say, well, why didn't they just ask for help? You know, why didn't they tell us that they were taking on too much? But sometimes they don't even realize until they've had that space. So I've really had to learn that as well. And that comes from a place of, you know, going back to our last point of just me not being so busy and being too busy for everyone. Because I know a lot of people used to think that, and we've mentioned it before, like, people would start a dialogue I know you're so
with,
busy.
I know you're busy, but
it kills me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get that as much anymore, and maybe you don't as well, which is nice, but it is really important for that. And then just one last thing on the communication side of it, and I did mention this last time, but what I've realized when it comes to communication, our thoughts are quite unique. You know, particularly as a visionary, you know, founders, we're coming up with our own businesses essentially. We can't expect other people to understand that. So yes, it might be, we might have all the ideas in our mind, but it is a real art to be able to communicate what is going on in our head into simple terms to someone else to then take action. So I don't know, some people feel like they have to make points complex. Whether you're a coach or you're trying to educate people, you know, you want to sound smart, and maybe you are smart and that's fine, but you can't expect everyone to have your knowledge. Or even with the app development, you know, for me, sets, reps, you know, of course it's going to go with an exercise. But they didn't know that. You know, which it is what it is. But I'm like, oh, where's was that sets and reps? It's in the program. But then you literally have to say, I want this here. There can't be an S on the end of that word. And it's like, that has really tested my patience in a sense to go, ooh, hang on a minute. I've just lived in my bubble for the past 10, 15 years. Everything in here and the language that you and I would talk or people in our industry, it's second nature. But to people, it's new. People still don't know what a carb is. They don't know where their quad is. They don't know that sets and reps goes with an exercise. Things like that. So that was a real lesson, but humbling in a way because it allowed me to really know things from the inside out, to be able to teach it in a simple way. And I feel like a lot of people resonate better. So it goes back to the imposter syndrome, people who don't feel smart enough. No one, or not most people don't want to know the complexities of the topic. It gets boring. People tune out, they don't understand, they don't want to ask for help. They miss, they still don't know what a quad is, but as to use your example, you're on Moment Arms talking about the next chapter. It's like they feel too dumb now to go, oh, hang on a minute, I actually didn't understand the first thing, but it's been an hour. I'm just going to not learn anything, you know?
Totally.
Keep it simple and clear.
Yep, absolutely. Like, communication is such a deep rabbit hole of emotional intelligence, isn't it? But I think it's most people only have the reading ability of a grade 5.
No.
Yeah,
Not in
honestly,
Australia.
on average. I don't know.
Really?
Well, honestly, reading and spelling of a grade 5.
What happened to high school? Autocorrect. Autocorrect. Yep, calculators.
But I think this is like the average, and it would be. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot.
Okay.
Like I don't even know what the numbers are of people completing high school these days. Again, we live in our bubble.
We do.
So you got to remember, on the internet, you're speaking to everyone, and I learned this as well because I've got not a lot, but quite a few clients that are English is their second language. So I've got to be mindful, like they're a lot of European or whatever, and I've just got to be mindful of what I say, how I say it, how clear I am, and when I'm in a group call, I change my tone and the way I slow things down. And, you know, it's hard enough to understand my accent, let alone throw in a few different slang words. So, yeah, we have to be so mindful. And if you can say something, you know, with 3 lines that normally you'd say with 5 lines, do it. You should. Do you know what I mean? You should simplify things to make it easier for people because, as you said, as soon as they don't understand, they tune out. And do you want to sound smart or do you want to help people? You know, like it's about helping people and it's about communicating in a clear way.
Yep. Communication is key.
Yeah.
It
Awesome.
is.
Well, those are 4 pretty awesome lessons. And like we said at the start, it's so much easier to be able to zoom out afterwards at the end when you've gone through the lessons. And don't get me wrong, we're going to be learning these lessons for the rest of our life. But it's really hard to first see the lesson. Like once you can see it and you're like, oh, you know, this is really important that I don't make these mistakes or I do this thing. That's when you can continue to refine and improve and build skills around it so that you don't have to make significant mistakes in those lessons and fall over and learn it a really hard way. It's about knowing the lesson because, you know, the hardest lessons we have to learn are the ones that we cannot see. That we get there and we're like, damn, I just didn't know that would be a bad decision. So once we can see these lessons, that's when we can start looking back, improving on them and making sure that you can implement changes for the new year.
Yep. So be kind to yourself. Good luck for the year ahead, even though we're going to chat anyway. Chat to you in 2 weeks after the rewind. And no one likes to know it all, so it's okay if you don't know it all. Just keep learning. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and hit follow so you can stay up to date with our weekly podcast.